Jai Hind to all of you. Today we are going to study the chapter Microorganisms, Friend and Foe, Class 8th. In this chapter we will be seeing about the friendly microorganisms, the different uses of the microorganisms and the harmful effect caused by the microorganisms. So to begin with, what are microorganisms? Microorganism or microbe is a microscopic organism which may exist in unicellular or multicellular form. The unicellular microorganisms include bacteria, protozoa and some of the algae, while multicellular microorganisms include algae and fungi. Now where we can find the microorganisms? So they can exist from the ice cold environment to the hot springs, that is the extremes of the environments, also from the deserts to marshy lands. They can also be found in animals including human beings, that is inside our body. Microorganisms can live alone like amoeba, while bacteria and fungi they live in colonies. These are some of the pictures which show that where do microorganisms live, that is in soil and also in water. Coming to the types of microorganisms, we have different types like bacteria, fungi, protozoa, algae and also virus. Now coming to the uses of microorganisms, that we'll be discussing about the friendly microorganisms. So the uses will be discussed on the basis of household use, commercial use, agricultural use and medicinal use. So the first is household use. The bacterium lactobacillus promotes the formation of curd. It multiplies in milk and converts it into curd. This we usually use in our household use. Commercial use. Microorganisms are used for large-scale production of alcohol, wine and acetic acid. Yeast is used for commercial production of alcohol and wine. For this purpose, yeast is grown on natural sugars present in grains like barley, wheat, rice, crushed fruit juices, etc. Now this process of conversion of sugar into alcohol is known as fermentation, and it was discovered by the scientist named Louis Pasteur. Medicinal use. Now the medicines which are used to kill or stop the growth of disease-causing microorganisms, they are known as antibiotics, and these antibiotics are prepared using these microorganisms. Some of the antibiotics like streptomycin, tetracycline and erythromycin, these are some commonly known antibiotics. Coming to the agricultural use, some bacteria and blue-green algae, they are able to fix nitrogen from the atmosphere to enrich the soil with nitrogen and increase its fertility. These microbes are commonly known as biological nitrogen fixers, and they increase the nitrogen content of the soil. Since plants cannot take direct nitrogen from the atmosphere, so these microbes they help to convert atmospheric nitrogen to the usable form of nitrogen, and this process is known as nitrogen fixation. Coming to the harmful microorganisms, the disease-causing microorganisms are known as pathogens. The microbial diseases that can spread from an infected person to a healthy person through air, water, food or physical contact are known as communicable diseases. Examples of such diseases include cholera, common cold, chickenpox and tuberculosis. There are some insects and animals which act as carriers of diseases causing microbes. Housefly is one such carrier. Another example of a carrier is female Anopheles mosquito, which carries the parasite of malaria. These were the diseases which are caused in animals by some of the microorganisms. Now some of the plant diseases are citrus canker, which is caused by the microorganism named bacteria. Rust of wheat is caused by fungus. Yellow vein mosaic of okra, okra is lady's finger, which is caused by a virus. Now coming to the topic of food preservation, since our food is also spoiled by microorganisms, so we need some of the methods so that we can preserve our food. So some of the methods discussed over here are chemical method, like we are using some of the chemicals like sodium benzoate and sodium metabisulfite, which are some of the common preservatives. We add these chemicals to our food so that our food can be preserved. We also use common salt, which has been used since years to preserve meat and fish. We also use sugar to preserve jam, jellies and squashes. By using oil and vinegar, we also prevent our food, that is the spoilage of pickles, can be checked using oil and vinegar. By heat and cold treatment, milk can be preserved, which is done using the technique known as pasteurization. Storage and packing. Dry fruits and vegetables are sold in sealed airtight packets to prevent the attack of microbes or microorganisms. So these are the various methods how we can preserve our food. Now nitrogen fixation. Coming to the topic of nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation is the conversion of atmospheric nitrogen to nitrates so that it can be used up by the plants. Rhizobium bacteria is involved in the fixation of nitrogen in leguminous plants. It lives in the root nodules of leguminous plants with which it has symbiotic relationship. Sometimes nitrogen also gets fixed through the action of lightning. Now coming to nitrogen cycle. The atmospheric nitrogen cannot be taken directly by plants, as we have already seen. Certain bacteria and blue-green algae present in the soil fix nitrogen from atmosphere and convert it into compounds of nitrogen. Once nitrogen is converted into these usable compounds, it can now be utilized by the plants. Now animals feeding on these plants, they get proteins and other nitrogen compounds. Now when these plants and animals they die, bacteria and fungi present in the soil, they convert nitrogenous waste into nitrogenous compounds which can be used by the plants again. Now certain bacteria are present in the soil which can convert some part of them to nitrogen gas back to the atmosphere. As a result, the percentage of nitrogen in the atmosphere remains more or less constant, which completes the nitrogen cycle in the atmosphere. So here we come to the end of this chapter. Thank you.